Hello everyone, it's pproteus here, back for another Pauper challenge with a familiar looking Stompy deck again. On the die roll, going to play first, playing against an opponent who is, playing against an opponent who I believe is also on Stompy. Vault Scourges are great in Mirror, so I will keep this hand. Most people, I think, are not on main deck gut shots like I am, but I think I just want to get Vault Scourge down as soon as possible. Start building up some amount of life total and be able to pit skulk soon. Okay, so yeah, in the past you've definitely seen me make some mistakes in the Stompy Mirror, and I'm going to try not to do that. So last week I tried recording and then was playing the Stompy Mirror and made a horrible mistake. And then went for a walk to cool off and accidentally timed out of the tournament. So I'm going to try not to do that again. So plan is Elephant Guide next turn. I just want to get that there as soon as possible. I won't cast it. My opponent leaves mana up. So I need that Kyrian Ranger down to interact. And then I might as well also play Pit Skulk. Because the Pit Skulk, I just want it to be turned on. My opponent attacked with their Nettle Sentinel. I won't block because that opens the door for my opponent to do things like their own Vault Scourge, Hunger the Howlback. I would rather creatures trade when I have mana bone. There's nothing bad that can happen except for my opponent gets to turn on their own Pit Skulk. Brilliant Emissary is good because it means my opponent's tapping out, so I'm going to get to resolve the Elephant Guide, and that's probably game unless my opponent also has a Vault Scourge with a Hunger. And they could. Mutagenic Growth is another good one. I think I'm going to attack with the Pit Skulk and try to get my opponent to block. Well, I'm definitely going to Elephant Guide right now. Because my opponent has vines, they're going to leave it up, and so I need it right now. Mutagenic Growth is protected from Gut Shot, although I think I'm the only person who is brave enough to run Gut Shots in the main. So I could definitely attack with the Pit Skulk here, and I'm not going to block with it, so that sounds pretty good. I don't actually want to use my Mutagenic Growth, so I'm not going to attack with the Kyrian Ranger. Okay, so I could definitely use my Mutagenic Growth here. So something I'm thinking about is my opponent goes Vault Scourge Hunger. Then I want to be able to win that Vault Scourge fight. And Mutagenic Growth will help. Say if my opponent plays a Forest and then leaves up Vines, but that's getting too complicated. My opponent would have to have that specifically, and that's the best thing they could possibly have. So, actually no, they don't have to use a Forest to leave up Vines because they have the spawn. I think I'm going to use it here. The Pit Skulk just isn't that valuable, but I don't expect them to be contesting the Vault Scourge. They're going to have exactly Vault Scourge plus Hunger plus Vines if they want to get through. So I think this is okay. Just the thing is that the 2/2s just aren't that valuable in this matchup. So how the Stompy Mirror works is that about 60% of games are decided by one giant threat, which has evasion, and the other 40% of games are decided by card advantage, basically, where things trade for each other, and then whoever gets flooded loses, unless one player just draws like a 5/5 on the ground that needs to be chumped every turn, or River Boa with mana to double regenerate it. And the the choice of which game you get depends on what players draw. So Hunger here is interesting. Are they going to stack the Eldrazi spawn? Or they just want, yeah, okay. So that's, it's a 5/5. All right, now it's an 8/8. So nothing to be trifled with, but it's way less scary than a Vault Scourge with those things on it. Opponent could have a Rancor, and that would probably seal the game in their favor. Okay, that's nice. So I can Burning Tree Emissary, and then use mana to play my Vault Scourge. So can't attack the Pit Skull, because the Pit Skull's not getting anywhere. So the reason why I have to go for the Elephant Guide as soon as possible, in addition to trying to play around binds, is that it creates situations like this for my opponent. Where if my opponent doesn't have a clock, then they get to wait one extra turn and put the double hunger on the Scarlet Pit Skull. And I can't chump block that. But 8/8 Nettle Sentinel, that's totally fine. In fact, they may have trouble untapping the Nettle Sentinel if they don't have a Kyrian. So I'm going to attack with the Vault Scourge here. Going to gain 4 life, which is very important. And I can keep in mind, I guess I didn't even mention it last turn, I can keep in mind I can use Kyrian just to untap the Vault Scourge and block, but I don't want to get my Vault Scourge eaten by, say, Vines. And that's a pretty reasonable thing for my opponent to have. So I'm not at all inclined to do that. I'm going to cast Vault Scourge. The life loss might matter, but I guess to chump if I needed to. So that might make up for the life lost. So I get to think about the cards that my opponent could possibly have that will be relevant in this situation. One of them is Rancor. I can't do much about Rancor. My opponent makes Nettle Sentinel, gives it trample. I'm probably going to lose as a result. I think my opponent has Vines or some kind of combat trick, because that last attack is not something you... I mean, it is something you do if... It's only if you think your opponent's really good, right? If you... and also, I've had enough people just run their things into Kyrian Ranger that it's not impossible. It's an accident, but I'm going to ignore that possibility. So, if you think your opponent's good, you can just do it every time, because I'm never going to call unless my hand's really good. Maybe if I have double immunogenic growth in my hand, I might. So I'm going to block for sure. So I think I want to chump here, trade there, and then probably trade here as well. My opponent can't have anything that blows up multiple combats at once, I don't think. Like, those aren't just reasonable cards to have. I get to hunger after this, put the hunger on my Vault Scourge, trade it for a Vines. And so there is a downside to doing this, which is that I don't get another chump next turn. So you know what? Let's keep this guy back to block next turn. I guess Epic Confrontation is a possible main deck card. So I just need to make sure that there's no combination of draws my opponent can have where I lose to that. So I'm going to let this happen. Yeah, I actually have one Epic Confrontation in my main deck this week. Alright, Nest Invader, that's okay. And the last card is Kyrian Ranger. Alright, they did have that. Do I make one really big Vault Scourge or 2 medium-sized Vault Scourges? Post board, I would probably go for 2 medium-sized Vault Scourges. Just play around gut shot, but there's nothing that could actually reasonably matter here. So I just get to cast that. I have 8 points of power. Yeah, so games like this are why I don't like running 4 hungers, because you just never want. Hunger turns are hard enough to set up that you don't want to have to do them multiple times in a game. So if my opponent has Epic Confrontation, and I have attacked with everything, I mean, I've gained 8 life, so I'm at 17. So 17, my opponent has 13 power on the table. So yeah, I don't lose to Epic Confrontation, which means I should just make the attack. Try to put my opponent's life down. I'm planning to hunger on their end step. I'm pretty confident there's nothing my opponent could draw that could kill me here, so they're going to need something that would interact positively with Vault Scourge. Say like a Vault Scourge of their own, and in that situation, what I want is my opponent to not be at enough life that they can survive a hit from Vault Scourge plus Hunger. So I don't think my play actually matters. Like I can just block Nest Invader, and they're not going to have 6 damage in their hand. There a card I should be thinking of? I really don't think so. I don't think there's anything here that will matter. Longbow, maybe? Longbow doesn't matter. Doesn't beat the 7/7. Alright, I'm thinking too much. I'm blocking the L7. I'm just trying to look for a reason to pick one over the other. I really can't think of one. And opponent concedes. Alright, so sideboarding in the Stompy Mirror. Let's see here. What's my plan? Again, made a few changes and now I'm wondering what to do. I think I want to bring in 1 natural state. That's probably the only thing I really want to bring in. And I'm going to take out Groundswell for the natural state. I could consider bringing in an additional Gut Shot. I like 1 Mutagenic Growth. I like 1 River Boa. I don't like Young Wolf in this matchup. Gut Shot's something I can consider. Maybe the Gut Shot's better than, say, an Epic Confrontation. Epic Confrontation is just a good out because sometimes your opponent makes a 4/4 flyer and you need a way to kill it or you lose the game. So I think I'm happy with this. Yeah, let's try this. Okay, well this is a weird hand. So this hand, it fails the test of... So I described earlier 2 main ways Stompy Mirror plays out. In the making an evasive threat matchup, it's, I suppose, not... It doesn't make an evasive threat of its own. With the vines, it can probably prevent the opponent from making an evasive threat. So that's a reason to keep it. And in the other games, it's pretty bad because it's got like 4 lands. I think Vines is a good enough card I can keep his hand. Like, I don't want to... Like, because the games either go to find a combo or have a lot of spells. I don't want to mulligan for the lot of spells game. I don't want to mulligan if I'm trying to find a combo. At least these are relevant cards in that kind of game. So I think I'm going to keep this hand. And you can yell at me in the comments if you think I'm wrong, because this is basically 4 lands, and that's really sketchy. But there are lots of things I could draw that would make this go right. Oh god. Well, okay, that didn't work out. So I'm just going to keep up vines here to prevent my opponent from like rankering it, because I don't think I'll ever recover if that happens. And then my opponent will know that I'm holding up vines, and that's not going to work out. And I was hoping just not to draw any lands ever. That was what I was thinking about when I decided to keep this hand. Alright, so opponent has a very different hand with literally nothing going on. I'm not going to tap out of vines ever. That's my plan. I can turn 4 Elephant Guide, maybe. Burn Dream is very scary. I'm going to attack into it because my opponent probably is not going to block. Ooh, Natural State. So that's another good one. That's additional protection against things my opponent could do to Vault Scourges. So I'm just going to attack with a Netall. I should probably just cast Natural State right now, actually. Maybe on the end of their turn, in case they go Hunger plus Vines. I could Vines killing the Estimator, but Nettle Sentinel is not going to be terribly important in this game, I don't think. So I'm going to play this, pass the turn, leave it up, double Vines or Vines plus Natural State. Natural State's a funny card in this matchup, but it works. It works. Opponent does not hunger. Alright, Pitskulk's a good one. So my opponent could have like Gutshot Vines, and then they blow me out here. But I don't think I can actually wait. I think that's like way too risky, so I'm going to go for it. I said I was going to Natural State on their end step, and I totally forgot about that. That was just, I just clicked through, I didn't think about it. So that was pretty bad. Please don't have vines. Alright, no vines. Well, now it's good that I still have the Natural State in my hand, because I'm going to get to cast it. I'm probably not going to untap and block, because I don't want to lose my Kyrian to a Vines. Alright, so they got the Rancor. Rancor's okay. Okay, they're being smart, they're diversifying the threats. I need to find a Vault Scourge to deal with that. I really wish I had killed one of them now, because, well, maybe not that much. Ah, there's a Vault Scourge. Okay, so I'm going to hit with the Kyrian Ranger, and then I will Vines to kill the creatures that he blocks with if he double blocks. Nope, they just jump. That's fine. So I think I Natural State a Vault Scourge here and just play one of my own. Is there a reason to do it now? Like, so my opponent's going to tap with both. I'm going to have to Natural State. Yeah, not really. I should just do it now. I get to guarantee I trade Vines for Rancor, but maybe I don't even want to do that. Yeah, I do want to trade Vines for Rancor. What am I talking about? And if they do something weird and cast their spells pre-combat or something like that, which is not advisable, then I might even Vines block, because that could go pretty well for me. So I'm gonna, one of these Vines is gonna counter a Rancor. Like, maybe I have to do that. Maybe my life total is so low that letting it die is just bad. Like, imagine my opponent casts Vines here and then just attacks. Then I would do it for sure, even though I might get blown up by Gutshot. But here, now I get blown up by anything, so I'm just going to block. Because if I cast Vines, my opponent casts Vines, then they trade, then my opponent puts a Rancor on their Pit's Gulk. My opponent would have cast Vines in response to... Wait a minute. Does my opponent have Vines? I don't know. Like, even if they have mutagenic growth, right, then there's trades. If they have gut shot, then I just lose the game. So I think I have to let this happen. I go to 6, which is not that bad. My opponent's going to replay the Rancor and I counter it. I think. That's bad. I wish I had done the first play, but there's nothing to do with it anymore. So I can definitely, I have to actually think about casting Vines here, because how am I going to not lose this game if my opponent has just the Vault Scourge? It's going to require me to draw probably a Vault Scourge of my own. So, and it will require me to draw a Vault Scourge of my own or a Gut Shot. That's also possible within the next 2 draw steps. So if I do that, then I get to just cast the thing and kill it. I still do that either way, even if I've already countered the Rancor. The upside is that if I draw a Vault Scourge, then my opponent attacks, I get to block, and then Vines save my Vault Scourge. Is that worth it? I don't think so, because I have the gut shots. I feel like my clock's too low. I don't know how my clock ended up this low. My clock is too low to do all the math that would be required to make this decision totally rationally. So let's see what I draw. So if I can get out of this. If I'm just going to draw Forest, I'm going to lose the game regardless. I mean, I guess I actually had 2 turns to get out of it versus 1. I was imagining I was going to draw like a 2/2 or something, and then I had the same number of turns if I let the Rancor live on the Vault Scourge. But yeah, not hopeful about this. Opponent doesn't block because they know I might draw like a Vault Scourge or something that would end this here. Rancor. Well, I'm gonna Rancor. I mean, I don't think my opponent would reasonably play around anything, so I'm just gonna attack. See if they triple block or something silly. So I guess I got punished for a combination of taking extra damage for no reason. But see, this is the kind of game that's this card advantage game I lost by flooding out. So that the hand in the beginning was kind of sketchy. I like sideboarding still. Maybe I want another gut shot. Maybe it's just right. What would I cut? I think I want the gut shot. Got a mutagenic growth. Alright, let's hope I draw a good hand. This hand's totally fine. This hand goes somewhere. So again, I can save the Kyrian for turn 2, when I get to decide what order to cast things, depending on whether or not my opponent has a 1-drop. Opponent could reasonably have Gut Shot. And yeah, that is a reason to keep in Mutagenic Growth. I think I've got to go Kyrian here. I don't want 3 Rankers in the same hand, like that's got serious problems. I'm just going to hope my opponent does not have Gut Shot. And the fact that I'm saying this here on turn 1 indicates, yeah, I do want as many Gut Shots as I can get in my deck. Although now that I've done this, my opponent could reasonably Gut Shot that Kyrian Ranger. Mutagenic Growth would also have been a good card there, so maybe that was the wrong card to cut. Okay, opponent cast the Vault Scourge. And I think I just trade here. What's the worst that's going to happen? Opponent's probably going to play like a Pit Skulk. Opponent doesn't have a Gut Shot, or they would have used it. And I have a lack of creatures, so I don't really want to trade. So I'm going to let them do this. If my opponent has a Hunger later, then I can contest that with all his Rankers and stuff. So that's not that bad. And the opponent's Pit Skulk is going to be turned on anyways. Oh. Alright, so I'm going to pretend like I have something. Cast Ranker on the Vault Scourge. I don't really want this untapped. And I'm going to not cast the second one yet. I want to get a creature down. I'm kind of not narrating this super helpfully, but I think this is correct. I need to play a creature, but I also need to have a bigger creature than their Vault Scourge. Opponent might say like Epic Confrontation nails have null on Vault Scourge, but that's, you know, that's just fine. I'm going to try to not activate my opponent's Hungers. So maybe that was a good reason to trade earlier, because now I just don't want to block at all. One Ranker I can put on a Pit Skulk, make the Pit Skulk mostly unblockable. Definitely winning the race. So they could totally Hunger here. That's something that they might do. I'm not going to play around Gut Shot because, you know, they would have used it. They probably will use it here now that they know I don't have a land. Longbow is definitely scary. Like, that's going to be a problem. That's going to be a big problem. I don't have an answer to that. Well, I'm probably going to lose then. I'm going to cast Burn Tree Emissary into Ranker on the Pit Skulk. I'm going to hope that I draw Natural State before too much damage gets dealt here. Because there's really not much else that I can have that's relevant. Longbow is a good card in the Stompy Mirror, although it's not the best card in the Stompy Mirror for the reason that most games revolve around one big threat, and if one of these rankers was a Hunger of the Howl pack instead, then their longbow would not do very much. Yeah, my only trouble is that they've got this Vault Scourge here. So I think they could possibly manage something at some point that kills my Pit Skulk. So this has positives and negatives. It untaps for free sometimes, but then it doesn't untap at all other times. But I'm just going to go up to 10. Mutagenic Growth will win me the game if I had it, but I do not. Oh man. Alright. Never mind. Okay. Bone has one card in his hand, so they're probably not going to be able to double anything next turn. They have to cast 2 spells or a Kyrian Ranger to untap. So unless they have a Vines or actual 2 spells, then I can actually race. Well, that's 1 spell, and it's going to gain them 2 life. That's rough. Oh man, they have it. No. I guess they could have also just had a 1 and then moved the longbow. They got to move the longbow anyways. So just by my opponent gaining 5 life here, I don't think I'm going to be able to come back from that. Yeah, I think my opponent got me. Longbow's a good card. GG's.